All right, welcome back to the Dad Still Here podcast. I'm Michael's dad, and I'm here with.
I'm Reese and Luke's dad.
How you doing today, Rye?
I'm doing good, Mike. I'm doing yeah, I guess not good, but as okay as you can be, right? With
Yeah,
everything
yeah,
that we go through and everything we talked about in the first two episodes, it's every day's not easy, but as trying to get as many good moments as it can every day. So how
I hear
about
that.
yourself, brother?
I hear that. I'm doing all right. Um, Same as you. You get through the day, and then you live to fight another one tomorrow. Um,
Yeah.
you have any contact with anyone about the podcast these past couple days?
Yeah, a couple people reached out and you know, and shared just some supportive, really supportive and overwhelming comments. And it's so appreciated because being able over these first two episodes to kind of share um, bits and pieces of recent Luke story with people and to get that out there and for people to hear it because I think everyone who knows what happened probably wants to know what happened. As weird as that might sound, but nobody wants to ask, and I don't blame them because it's the worst. And you also don't want to just go around sharing it, right? I mean, like
Yeah,
Brandon and I've talked about it. Like you almost like you feel like when this happens, like you feel like you're a rain cloud. And if you just tell people everything or a large portion of it, like if anybody's close enough to you, they just get soaked. And you don't want to do that to anybody else. And but that being said, like these stories are all we have. Stories and what they give you in the box.
yeah,
That's it. And yeah, but no, it's been good. A lot of people have reached out, and I think a lot of positivity from some other dads, and that's the whole purpose of this. And that's what like makes me excited, man. Like I love it, and to have this outlet with you, brother, and this ability to talk about our boys and what they meant to us, what they mean to us, and then eventually other dads too who are just like us, giving them an opportunity to talk like that. To have something this positive is huge, and I'm just so excited about it. So, what about you, bro?
absolutely. Yeah. First, let me you touched on coming home with that box. Maybe at some point, whether it be this episode, another episode, we'll talk about that. 'Cause I know myself, I started to go through that box and early on, and I had to close it and wait a little bit. So we'll definitely talk about that. I got a message today. You know, pretty much from somebody I never expected to get a message from. Uh, Chris and I both know his mom. She shared her own lost story with me, and said she had listened in and was hearing the male fatherly perspective of it. That was a nice, refreshing surprise. So um, it was good to hear.
Yeah, it sounds so cool. And again, we are um, nowhere near capable of like even begin to understand what our wives went through. And I know we're going to talk about that probably today. But to hear that moms, because I had a lost mom reach out to me too, and to hear that perspective or that point of view, it's awesome, man. And yeah, if this was intended to help dads. If this helps a mom or helps a mom help her, her partner, her husband with it, or the dad with it, it's huge, man. We've said it time and time again. If we can help one person, like this is a success, and that's what makes it
Absolutely.
exciting. So,
Absolutely.
well, listen, I want to get into it if you're okay.
I'm ready.
I know previously we had talked about episode 3 being something different, and it wasn't until you texted me thinking about, chronological order and, if we're going to do this right, we really got to go from top to bottom, truthfully and honestly. And it was a great point by you. So we flipped the script, and episode 3 um, today is coming home in a new normal. And I think this is a really brilliant idea from you, brother, for a lot of reasons. Because we've talked about Michael and Reese and Luke, and our story of being parents who had to deal with stillbirth, um, at different times, right? Different dates and different timings throughout the pregnancy. But I know that's only a certain amount of the audience. But again, 1 in 4 pregnancies end in some type of tragedy, and coming home, that happens to everybody, whether it's a miscarriage or a stillbirth or you know it newborn infant death, like anything like that, like that coming the home thing, man. That's why this episode I think is gonna be tough, but it's such a good idea from you, man.
And
Um,
as we were talking, I was thinking like trying to put the hurdles in order. We talked last time about still having to give birth to the babies or time with the babies. Saying goodbye to them at the hospital, and I in my mind, next giant hurdle is getting in that car and coming home, and what that's like.
so yeah, let's start with. I know we touched on it in a previous episode, but leaving the hospital. I mean, any thoughts on what was that like for you?
Just leaving the hospital, at one point or another, they tell you, all right, you're going to spend the night, you're going to spend 2 nights, whatever it may be. But, eventually there's, a time stamp on there when it's going to be time to go and unfortunately say um, goodbye to our kids. Nothing to really prepare you for that. We talked about all the things we try to do and squeeze in for them and the time we had them. I know when we left, there was, I think it was CVS down the road. We got a bunch of pictures printed for him of, us, Isabella, our parents. I wrapped him in my shirt so he had something of mine, keeping him warm. You're thinking any little thing you can do to make him comfortable and to have things around him when you leave, to let him know how loved he is. So we tried to do that with the pictures, with my shirt, little teddy bear for him. But then, you have to force yourself to take that step outside the room, and you don't want to leave because, you're never going to go back to him. But it's, you got to go home. So
Yeah.
what was leaving like for you?
Um, the worst. We the morning we spent, and we had a little blessing from like the chaplain, and we were trying to debate, do we want to do something. The chaplain says, like, do you want to do something formal or off the cuff? Do you want to do something I have a script here, or I could just, like, say a prayer and be okay. And we were our boys were going to an autopsy, so and one thing we made sure was, like, we wanted them, like, we made it pretty clear they cannot be apart. Um, so however long the autopsy would take, like, they need to be together. You can't take one and leave one. Can't take Reese and leave Luke, or can't take Luke and leave Reese. So we decided we wanted a blessing done, and we chaplain comes in, and she's a wonderful lady, and she starts saying the prayers. We decide we'll do something formal. She starts saying the prayers, and she's in the middle of praying, and she reads a verse from the Bible, from the book of Luke. And dude, just like right here, man, like I stopped her mid word, and I was like, are you just doing this because his name is Luke?" She said, "No, this is the one that I always read." And so that was like a sign. We tried to take it as a sign, from Luke, that everything's going to be okay. We spent as much time, to your point, and you guys had told us, some of the things, the pictures, and take videos and do all that. And then before we left, the thing that, like, one of the things that sticks out the most is, like, they don't make depression tests for people who don't get to take their kids home. So we had to do, you have to do this depression test, and the questions are like ridiculous. Like, have you cried in the past week for no good reason? Like, what kind of answer is that? Like,
Yeah.
past week, a week ago, our kids were still alive. Like,
Okay.
this whole week has been the worst week of our lives. Like, what do you mean? Have you smiled or have you laughed? No. Like,
Oh,
so then you got to sit there and you got to wait for the doctor to come in. And I remember sitting there just getting angrier and angrier because we said our goodbyes, we gave our kisses, we were prepared to try and walk out of there. And walking out of there is just the toughest thing in the world, man. Um, you want to stay with them forever. You want to take them home with you. You want to, yeah, I don't even know, but you don't want to leave them. You feel like you're abandoning them. And I said it 1,000 times, like, I'm not leaving you. We're not leaving you. You're with us. But then, so they finally come in and we can go and watching them roll them, push the cart out with both of them there. And shit, man, that's a brutal, brutal memory to exist. So I remember, to your point, just it being so difficult. And talk to me about, my, you say your goodbyes, and it's so tough and it's so difficult and it's so emotional. The car ride, man, like, I, when you brought this up, the car ride to me is what like kind of
yeah.
clicked in my mind. So talk to me about you, what it was like for you and Chris. You're driving home and
Yeah, it's a very quiet car ride, with the exception of both of us crying on and off. You're still struggling with the fact that you just walked out of the hospital, without your baby. For us, it was the last time, we got to see him. We had him buried as you did too, but we didn't get to see him after the funeral home picked him up. So you're walking out of there with the idea that's the last time you're seeing your son. Um, all those emotions squeezed into the past, I don't know, day and a half, 2 days that you're there. The realization, not that you didn't realize it before, but I've mentioned it a few times, and I'll mention it again just because I think it was so strong, at least for what I was feeling. But that bad dream feeling where, like, sometimes you think you're going to wake up, but you're not. Um, you know, Trying to take care of your wife, do everything you can, make her comfortable, and you get in the car. And there's not, I mean, what can you say? You can't
yeah,
really, there's nothing you can say. And we drove home pretty much in silence, just holding hands, trying to be with each other, and both on and off crying for the entirety of the ride. For us, we had to go. We went straight to my parents' house. Isabel was sleeping over there while we were in the hospital. And for us, it came time to get out of the car and walk in, and you got to kind of then liven up for your other one. And it was a very tough thing to do. Just your head's still spinning. Um, can't believe what happened, and it to me, it's that was still on the point where things didn't feel real yet. Um, but it was nothing but silence and crying for us. How about you guys? What was your car ride home like?
the first time, we after we found out they were twins, and um, we essentially got, because of the type of twins we had, the Modai twins. Um, we were at the MFM more than our regular OB, which was at the hospital. So I remember the first time. Hey, your first time you go into the hospital, you're walking in, you're like, man, all right, like, you know, every 2 weeks we'll be here. And if they tell me it's every week, like, then it's every week, like, like, but you think, like, all right, this is the first step. And eventually I'm going to walk in here one day. And when I walk out, I'm going to have two babies with me and a whole new set of responsibilities and a whole new prerogative on life and a whole new everything. And walking out to the car while the nurse was with Brand in the wheelchair, and I have the bags. I'm trying to get everything loaded in, and I just remember it being like the loneliest walk you could make. It was maybe 500 feet. It felt like 5,000 miles. Um, I get in the car, pull around as fast as I can, and get home and or get to Brand, and we start to drive down. And I remember saying to myself, like, it was a winter day. So it was cold, but the sun was like so warm, and like I could feel the sun like beating on me while I was driving. Which most of the times, in the wintertime, you get mad. It's you got the heat on, but then the sun's baking you, and you're this is so stupid. But I just remember not getting mad at that, um, and thinking it's the boys, shining on me. Um, and because of twins, like we love anything in doubles. So, to your point, there's a lot of tears and a lot of sadness and a lot of everything. There's kind of like, you don't want to leave the hospital because it's kind of like, I don't know, it's a place where time kind of stopped, right?
You could still
Um,
kind of cling on at that point.
yes, yes. So, then you leave the hospital and you're like, okay, like, we'll go back home. And so, but there's like, oh, 55-mile-an-hour speed limit sign. Like, look, two numbers. It's the boys, right? Or there's a license plate with two double numbers. Like, it's the boys, like, so we're trying to convince ourselves or something or look, and yeah, we finally get home. And it's a place where when you have your home, it's a place where, you're supposed to it's where your dreams are supposed to be, your kids and your family and all the good things, and all the bad things can happen everywhere else in the world, but home isn't that's not where that should happen, right? And instead you just walk in, and it kind of just like catches you, man. Like bad dream is the perfect way to put it, Mike. It's quiet. It doesn't feel it just doesn't feel like what it's supposed to feel.
Feels a little empty.
And yeah, little is a lot empty. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, you walk in that door, and I mean, for us, seeing our dog was good, and then we just laid down and tried to go through the emotions. I think everything hit both of us at that moment, and checking in with family, letting them know, hey, we're home, we're okay. You know, um, the constant check-ins with family, some friends. You guys are one of them, um, and trying to like restart something that like is never meant to be restarted. Like this isn't the life that I'm supposed to be living. Like I love you. It's not the life you should be living either, right? It's the life we have to live. We should, I should have two boys here, and you should have a boy there, and that's a tough thing to come to grip with, that reality grip comes pretty quick, man.
Yeah, I think that first step through the front door, not that everything else didn't hit you like a ton of bricks, but that first step through at home, really sinks it in, tenfold. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's everything, dude. It's you know, everything you thought about for as long as you knew them, everything you were excited for, everything you couldn't wait for, everything that made every day worth it just feels like it went away. And it didn't just gradually go away. It went away in like the most painful, devastating way possible. And in an instant, your whole everything has changed. Your perspective on life and your prerogative on you know hope and optimism, like just gone. Um, the things that you thought like that you'd be doing, you're not doing, and then you're jealous of. You wish it could be. In some other world, you'd be at some other timeline or something. You're doing those things, and yeah, it's coming in, walking through that door is a tough thing, and
yeah, I know when we got home, I'm I don't know if you guys had some stuff out, but we had the bassinet ready. We had brought outfits to the hospital that we thought he was going to wear home. I had Chris wait in the car, and I quick went in and just scrubbed any of that stuff, put away, so she wouldn't have to see it. Bassinet away, clothes away, any of the infant stuff we had got out. Just not to try and upset her when she saw it. So there was a mad dash to do all that. Um, as soon as I walked in the door.
We weren't anywhere near, nowhere near as long as you guys. We were close, but not. I mean, we still had a couple months. So luckily, we didn't have those. I mean, I said in a previous episode, I think, Wednesday night we're planning a baby shower, um, and Friday we're, you know, we're finding out the worst news, and then by Tuesday, so 6 days later, we go from baby shower to talking about a funeral
Yeah,
in 6 days. So I am thankful that we didn't have the baby shower, because if I would have walked into a house with all that stuff here, I don't know what I would have done.
yeah,
But yeah, I did. There were a couple things that people had gotten us, like onesies and stuff, and for Christmas, and had been sitting out for a couple weeks on the table, and you look at or things I brought home or something, like, and I still have them. They're in a drawer back here, dirt right over there. But yeah, you try and do all that stuff because, to your point, you just don't want anything to like bring up those sad memories, because you don't know anything better at first. Like, what can I do to protect? Like, and I think I said to you, like, I had my tough week the week prior,
mhm,
um, and so I knew when I came home, like, I got to be on as much as I can, and not that it wasn't okay, or not that, please don't think that if you're listening, like, it was never like, oh, I can't do this in front of my wife. No, but you don't want to burden somebody's burden with so much, more. So, you
yeah,
would just, like, try and do whatever you can to lighten her burden. Um, and again, I'm not a victim. Me and Mike are not saying that at all. We're just saying, like, this is just the reality of being a man trying to protect and provide something when you feel like you've already failed at the protecting part. So least I could do now is, make sure she's sleeping, make sure she's getting food, make sure whatever she needs for as long as she needs it. Like, that's what I'm going to focus in on. So, um, anything like stick out to you about that first night? Like maybe the first night home back, like you,
yeah. So the first night home, there's still not too much conversation. You're quiet and crying. You're sitting together, crying. Um, we uh we had got the girls and we came home, and of course you should get some rest. Your brain doesn't let you at that point. Uh,
yeah,
so we kind of all hung out together for a little, and then um, try and get to sleep. That's not happening. Chris, when we first got home, I'm gonna say maybe at least maybe a month, 6 weeks. Um, she would not want to lay in bed. That was the last place she remembers feeling baby Michael moving. When we were in bed, midnight the night before his due date. So she slept on the couch for quite a bit, just because she just didn't want to come back to bed where that was the last time she knew he was alive. So we'd stay up, we'd just sit with each other kind of in silence that first night, and then you both kind of lay down with your eyes open and brain running a million miles an hour. Yeah, you eventually kind of go in and out of a little bit of sleep. That first night, definitely not much. Not much at all. Um, still trying to get yourself to think like, is this real? Um,
Yeah.
you're hoping you wake up in the morning and it's like, oh no, but um, yeah, not much sleep on the first night. But
Yeah. That first night for us, I remember w- we needed a prescription because like Bran hemorrhaged and we needed some stuff. So luckily, my brother was able to run up and drop it off to us, and thank you for doing that. And then her mom and sister came over just to see her and check in. And, it was a welcome distraction. I remember like when I'm leaving, like, oh, let's try and get some sleep, and still just so exhausted from the previous 48 hour. I mean, I
yeah,
guess weeks worth of hours, right? It's not like you slept like it's not like I slept on Sunday night or Saturday night or Monday or Tuesday. Um, so you're just exhausted and going to bed. And to your point, man, your brain's just firing at 10,000 miles a minute. And I am a fixer, or at least I used to be a fixer. Um, I
or
used to be the person. I used to be the person that like everybody would call, and normally I could figure things out pretty good and pretty quickly. And so, as soon as I think Brand fell asleep, it was like, what can I do to fix? How can I like how can I figure out grief as fast as humanly possible? Um, and there's no fast way, none. I've learned that now, but back then I thought maybe if I buy a couple books and if I read the books and if I listen to some podcasts and if I do this and I do that, like I'll be able to lead us to take us like where like I'll be able to figure it out. And what a dumb thing to think. Because there's nothing. I mean, the one thing I read, which I really tried to do, is just it says just be there and you don't have to talk. Which for me, like not talking is a difficult thing. Um, if somebody's mad at me, let's talk about it. If somebody has a problem, let's talk about it. If you still got a problem after we talk about it, then I'm okay. At least we talked about it. But I really don't like when people are mad at me from what I've learned. I guess certain people. Um, but there's nothing you could say like in this situation, like nothing. Like there's nothing. You're lying if you say everything's going to be okay because you don't know that. It doesn't feel that way.
yeah,
Um, the harsh realization of like this happened to us, like this happened to our boys. It could happen to anybody. Like that hits you like a Mack truck, man. Um, and it's I mean, even still now, like it could. I worry for anybody who I know like is pregnant. I worry. I don't want them to have to go through the same stuff that we went through and that you went through. Um, talk to me about and I know we said like so, and again, dad's still here. Even if our kids aren't, like we are. You know, Chris, like how was it? Being with her and trying to take care of her, and as she's having to go through the worst experience of her life. What was that like for you, brother?
yeah. So definitely, the mom and dads each have different feelings in this. The moms carried these children. Um, the babies lived inside them. So there's part of it, we can't understand. I've been all that and all this. That's that's the most difficult role, is being the one who carried them,
Yeah,
and losing your baby. 'Cause it was Alex I talked to, the one day about this and saying, um, they take on that pain, in a situation like this, and, that our role is to just step in and take care of them even if we're not okay, at that
yeah,
time. Um, so you want to get into like what the first couple days at home were like?
Yeah, let it rip, dude.
That's kind of what I was falling into. We came home. We were just home alone with the girls the first night. Woke up the next morning. I know the first thing I did, which you guys did this very differently than us, and you guys did it the right way. But I walked right downstairs and grabbed a beer the next morning, and Chris and I were having both our parents and siblings over the next day. We drank like fishes. Um, we had people over. You guys were over. A lot of our friends were over. The first couple days, and the first couple days, you're making all the phone calls, telling everybody for the first time. And every time you tell the story, it's hitting you right in the chest again. Um, so that's a lot to do just to get yourself ready to talk on the phone and tell everybody. We had a lot of people over though, and we would drink and things were kind of okay. While everybody was here, you had distractions, you had your whole support system there with you. But the thing was, then when everybody left that night and you're back by yourselves, that's when that darkness then creeps in again, and it all comes crashing down really fast. So it was great, um, feeling the love and support of everybody that was over during the days. But then, it flips like a switch. When nighttime comes and you're sitting back alone with your own thoughts, and it's not something you can find. You can't put on a movie. You can't distract yourself with anything like that. Um, so first few days were just still in that realization of like, Jesus Christ, this happened, and it being real to you. How about for you guys?
Yeah.
What were your first couple days feeling?
Let me just tell you, let me just say, like, there is no playbook for this. There's no, I tried to find one, man. If there was a playbook, I would have found it because I was doing everything I could. There's no right or wrong way. Like, I understand every perspective that exists of this. And, don't, you know, don't anything about yourself, brother. Don't say one way's the right way or wrong way. Like, man, I can't imagine everything you guys had to go through and then come home and have living children. And that's brutal, brother. So please don't, felt like you were beating yourself up a little bit there. And I don't want you to do that,
Yeah,
man.
nah. I mean, I appreciate it, but it definitely it pushed things
Yeah,
off till the next day and the next day.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
we also had a little
I think,
thing. One, my bad.
sorry. No,
Now,
it's
the
my
one
fault.
one thing with coming home for us, Isabel all through Chris's pregnancy would go up and touch her belly and say, "Baby, baby," and then we were home and she kept doing that still, 'cause she didn't know what happened. That was a killer.
Yeah,
Her just still thinking, baby's coming, baby's coming.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. I mean, to your point, we didn't drink. Um, and, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I thought about it, thought about it a ton. Not proud to say, like, I would have sat in a bar and drank every drop of beer I could get my hands on and every shot I could. But I knew that that just wasn't the pathway. I knew that wasn't the pathway that would work for us. And,
You did go with that.
thanks, man. I appreciate you. But we kind of, you know, there was a snowstorm pretty quickly after. So we were, you know, not only like snowed in, not only like, locked into our house physically, right? But like emotionally, like everything, like this became like kind of like the place like that were like, hey, like we're here, we're not going anywhere. Um, and so yeah, It was tough, man. I mean, some family came over. My mom, brought us our grocery order over, and I hadn't seen her since like, I think I want to say they came over third. They came to the hospital on Thursday, so it was like Sunday or something. Yeah, you and Chris were the only ones that we kind of wanted to see, and if our friends are listening, please don't take anything from it. But you just, you're at such a low point that you feel like you have to check in with other people, and everybody's great. They're reaching out. What can we do? What can we this? What can we that? And you know, you feel guilty when somebody says like, what can I do? Or what do you need?" And like your natural response is just like, "My kids." But you don't want to say that. And we never said it. But even now, still to this day, what do you need? My boys. That's it.
That's it.
And yeah, I mean, you go through, trying to, again, just take care of your wife and do as much as you can and learning. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'm a dumb person. I had no idea what goes into like postpartum. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. It is so not fair that moms have to, you know, go through everything they go through and not get to take their babies home. It is so not fair, dude. Watching the person you love the most in the whole world um, be so broken down and understandably so, and then have like all the physical stuff, the recovery and the medications and the this and the that, and then the milk and everything. Like it's just terrible, dude. I'm so sorry for every mom who's lost out there. I'm legitimately like lost, or I'm so sorry. Um, I struggled with like a lot of thoughts like those first couple days of like I never wanted to see anybody again. Like I just wanted to crawl up into a hole and never leave this house again for the rest of my life. And some days I still feel that way. Um, you're I don't know what to like how to explain it. Embarrassed, devastated. You don't want people to see you cry. Which now, if you're watching this, you've seen me cry a half dozen times and probably will see me cry 100 more. And slowly but surely, I got to the point where I didn't care if I cried, and I've cried in public. I've cried, I was at something a couple weeks ago, and this high rise building, and, you know, walk outside onto the balcony, and, you're on the top floor of this like thing of this building. And it kind of hit me, like this is the closest I'm ever going to be to them, me physically. Yeah, if we get in a plane, I'll be closer, I guess. But like me standing, could be here. This is the closest I'll ever get to them, and I just lost it. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's things like that that just eventually yeah, you try and figure it out. And I know I fast forwarded a lot from the first few days to that moment, but um, it's a roller coaster, and you almost black out in between when you're talking about things because you want to complete the thought because you want to you know get it
Try
out there, but
trying to think even about, the questions we ask each other. Sometimes, I mean, you ask me something and my mind will just beeline in like 7 different directions about things that are maybe kind of related, but not really. And then it just all blends together. And the thoughts start buzzing. It's hard. It's impossible not to. Not even it's hard. It's impossible.
when I rewatch, dear Lord, um, that's when I'm like, oh, I can't believe I forgot this. I can't believe I forgot that. And that's why, like, listen, this is episode 3, and we're gonna do this for a while. So eventually, we'll get out all the pieces, and I'm excited for that. Um, Mike, tell me about like maybe you know, so those first few days you get through and you're doing it, but like did anything, people reaching out to you, offering, I mean, what was that like? I mean, because that's a difficult thing. I know you're a proud guy like myself.
Yeah.
And when people offer help, it's a difficult thing. One of the books like I read, it said like, when you have like a group behind you, like one of the most difficult things for a lot of us, especially as guys, is to accept their help.
Yeah.
What was that like? I mean,
It was tough for sure. Like you said, being proud, it makes it a little difficult to accept help even when you need it, even when you need it the most. Um, we both grew up with fathers in our lives, Mike and Frank, that didn't need help with a damn thing and got everything done. So, you're trying to follow that and you know, you feel guilty a little bit too. And for, a reason I can't even explain. I don't know if you felt the same way, but like, when everybody's trying to help you, like you feel a little bit bad. Um and that like couples into me is, everybody's saying I'm sorry to you, and I didn't want anybody to be sorry to me. The only person to be sorry for was, baby Michael. Um, so accepting any sort of help was really tough. You listen to everybody's advice, listen to everything they have to say, but you think you're gonna push through on your own, and that's a really tough thing to do. You need other people. You do. Um, Fortunate enough to and unfortunate enough to have my brother-in-law to talk to a lot, who had lost his daughter Rosie, um, shortly before baby Michael. But accepting help was really tough. We had our families come over the next day. Tons of food. Everybody, you know, doing anything they can for you, and you appreciate it. Um, but it's just, uh, there's nothing you could do to help that wound, but everybody is doing the most they can. Um, and it just helps to see the people that care about you do everything they can for you. So, you really do feel loved in those situations. It's just you're still looking for some sort of band-aid for something that can't be kind of fixed.
I remember like the sheer overwhelming feeling of it all, like whether it was the text messages or the, you know, DoorDash gift cards or the food or the this or the that, the sympathy cards, like flowers. I hated the flowers. I feel so bad. Thank you if you sent us flowers and if you're listening. But it felt like, our home felt like a funeral home for a little bit. And so it was like a difficult thing. I still have all the vases in the garage. Um, because I just can't bring myself to like throw them out, as crazy as that sounds.
That's
Um,
crazy. Yeah, that makes sense.
but yeah, I mean, it's like just overwhelming. And to your point, like, y- it's it's to us, not to them. And I know it's to them via us, right? But you're just like, man, like I don't want to eat. I don't want to. I don't deserve to eat something from DoorDash, or I don't deserve to have this bagel, or I don't deserve to have these pretzels. Like, Reese and Luke aren't going to be able to have a bagel. Reese and Luke aren't going to be able to have a pretzel. Like, it's that type of stuff that you just like fight through. And then at the same time, trying to make sure, your wife's eating, your wife's drinking her water and, or, whatever she wants to drink, right? To get fluids in her and taking her medication and doing all that stuff. And you're just like a constant like inner battle, man. Like I remember, um, again, like everybody's there and or people are reaching out and you're just like overwhelmed. And I would just have my phone on do not disturb, as terrible as it sounds. And it would be 2 days, 3 days later before I responded. Partly because I just didn't know how to respond. And even if it was just saying thank you or appreciate you, Yeah, this sucks. It was all just a lot. One thing, and this isn't tied to that, but I needed to say because I don't know if you went through the same thing, but man, like when we first started this, I talked about the dad being up at 2 a.m. scrolling his phone, and like we talked about that first night and the first few days. Like that's what I did at nighttime, man. It's all I did was just scroll and try and find anything, searching the internet, like anything to be helpful. And then I would like click on the pictures of the boys and just cry. I would go in the bathroom and just cry. 'Cause I didn't want to wake up Bran. I didn't want, her to do it. And she would wake up and look at the pictures too, right? I mean, we talked about that. And yeah, I'm going back when we should be going forward. But, if you're a dad like us, and I'm sure you've been there where you're going through it, or if you have a dad in your life that has been there or is going through it, please encourage them to reach out to us and message us on any one of our social medias. We'd love to hear from anybody and just let them know, hey man, we're here. We'll listen to the story. It's all we want to hear. So it's that coming home, man, is tough. Is there anything looking back on it now, if you could, um, is there anything maybe that you wish you could tell yourself in the car?
Um, yeah, that's a tough one. Just because I remember the day Chris and I were driving over to see you and Bran, when you had just gotten home from the hospital. Um, we understand your situation 100%, and even knowing all that, knowing how you were feeling, uh, the real pain that you were feeling, having felt it ourselves. I remember still thinking like, I don't know what the fuck to say to him when we get there. I don't know what kind of words are gonna offer any true comfort, um, or bring any sort of true peace to you. There, there, I felt really bad on that car ride just because I didn't know what to do, even though I know what it I know what it felt, know what it felt like. So if I had to look back, I'm not sure what advice really I would have given myself. Definitely, we wouldn't have drank like we did. Um, I think it might have helped us. One thing I remember that day when we were talking in the living room of your house, we'd hit an emotional point in the conversation. Everybody break it down a little bit, and I remember you telling Brand like, "No, this is what we got to do. We got to talk about the boys. We got to talk about this." And you had a really mature understanding of what needed to be done. Um, so for us, I wish we might have got on some calls, got into some groups, a little more quickly. But like you said, there's no playbook. We didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Um, that's the probably the only advice I could have given. And even if I had to give advice now, months later, I'm not sure I still know what to do.
Yeah. Hate that the truth, dude. I think, you said something about this the other day and it's been pinging around in my brain and somebody said something to me about the podcast and it wasn't a negative thing. It was like, oh, I'm sure it must be hard. And my response was like, everything is hard in my life.
Yeah.
There is nothing easy anymore. And I think that would be the advice, maybe as weird as that sounds, like, you know, you're not used to it. I'm never used to it. I'm extremely uncomfortable with it because everything used to be easy. But you grow with it as much as you can. But every day is just difficult, man. And you I don't know about you, but I'm like jealous of people that not jealous, but I'm envious of people that have same word, I guess. Idiot. Anybody who hasn't had to go through this, like I'm so happy they haven't, and I don't wish this on anybody. I would never ever wish this on anybody. I don't want it to happen again. I hate that it's going to happen again. I hate that in a hospital right now, there's a family going through this. Where you're just, like you wish you could have
Yeah,
that kind of like innocence, previously, right? You know,
yeah.
um,
My mom
because
actually is. I'm sorry.
no, go.
She just sent me a text this morning from someone she used to work with. Reached out to her, talking a little bit. Um, she had a daughter, um, and the daughter spent, I think it was almost 40 days in the NICU, and then came home. But she was telling my mom, she's like, I I still realize that I'm lucky because she came home with me.
Yeah,
Um, so you know that's the truth. Might have some bumps, this and that, but if they come home with you, you hit the lottery.
yep. That's the perfect way to describe it is hitting the lottery. And I think, I think that's completely like it is. That's the dream, right? To have kids and be parents. And the
Yeah,
sad reality is that we have kids and we are parents. And unfortunately, our kids are just not here.
yeah,
Um, Listen, I think this was a great, pretty deep episode.
yeah,
Um, Difficult. I know we're gonna have to do a part two on it because we're 55 minutes in and I'm already thinking about things that I missed and I know that I missed and
me
like
too.
yeah, like so we're definitely gonna have to do a part two on this.
Yeah,
So we
absolutely.
know of at least one more episode for any of our listeners. Uh, I guess as we start to wrap up, Mike, open mic time. Anything good, bad, funny happened to you? It makes you think of your boy. Makes you think of anything you want to share.
We've been seeing a hell of a lot of deer around here, and you know the look on Chris's face when she sees one out the window, seeing that and thinking, there's baby Michael for me. Um, that's been nice. Had a tough moment earlier today. Had Isabella out by the sliding glass doors by the deck, and we got a tree planted for him out there. And she said, and she's still young to really understand what happened, but she just said, I miss baby brother. And it's crushing, but there's part of you that's happy to know he's on her mind. You know what I mean? It's not just something that's gone for her. She's still even that young that she still has thoughts about him. So that was a bit of a bittersweet moment for me there that I had today. But now, and I know you guys from our conversations, you guys see a ton of signs and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
you have anything lately that's made you
Yeah,
think?
actually, that's exactly what I was going to today. So, today I was all over the place with doing some stuff, and I got home a little early, and I'm trying to you know catch up on some things, and our sign for the boys is Blue Jays. We always joke if you see one, you'll see a second one pretty quickly. Um, and I hadn't seen one. I'd take our dog out, in the late afternoon. Um, and normally I would see one out there and I was kind of like a little bummed, right? And I feel guilty because I ask them for, every morning I pray to them, every night I pray to them, and I felt kind of guilty. Maybe I'm asking too much of them. And I said, I just looked up at the sky and honestly, it was like, I know I haven't seen a blue jay, but it's okay because everywhere I look, I will find you. And whether it's the clouds or the different shades of blue in the sky, like I'll find you guys and I know you're with me. And kid you not, man. 20 minutes later, I come in, I'm inside and I'm giving Brand a hug. I'm looking out the front window, man, and a blue jay just flies right by, man. It's like
Right.
it's why like I hate I fucking hate how things turned out, but I am every day I'm so thankful for them because Reese and Luke have given me the strength. Um, they're the light during the darkness, and they're the calm during the storm, man. And I know you feel the same way about Michael. And
Absolutely.
I know I'm sad about them, and I've said this with you. It's the best reason to be sad, and I will say that and talk about them until the day that I die. And when I die, I know I'll get to see them again, and that's gonna be sick, you know.
Amen.
So yeah, not to end on a sad note. I mean, for me, it's a beautiful thing, and I appreciate you asking. And I appreciate if you're listening. And again, just a reminder: if you please, if there's a lost dad in your life, anybody, please share this with them. They might not be ready to listen to it. They might not be ready to talk about it, but just send it to them and let them know we are just two regular guys whose kids should be here. Um, that's all we are. We're not approaching this from some like a clinical perspective. We have none of those skills, and I- maybe we're emotional sometimes, but not all the time. And just trying to be as real as we possibly can. We just want them to know, hey, we're there. So message us if you want. I'd give you my cell phone number if you message me. I'm so in on this. So, but message and I just want to, let other dads know like that. Anybody who's experiencing that feeling of like walking from the hospital or the doctors to your car while, you know, your wife or your girlfriend is or your partner is sitting back there devastated, like that loneliness, like you're not alone, man. We're with you. So,
Absolutely.
well,
Well said.
thanks for listening in. With that, Mike, let's end this
Did it for the boys, and we'll always do it for the boys.
for the boys. Thanks for watching.